Hey, hello, it's Nick again, bed hair Nick. Still nighty Nick, so it's 2:15 in the afternoon. I have actually been awake since 5:45 this morning, but I am finding it very difficult to move my arse, quite frankly. So the point of all of this, as ever, is to share, join the dots, understand what's happening to us. So I did get up early. My energy is always up in the morning. So my top tip to myself is do the really important stuff while the energy's up. So I have done the key jobs, and I have actually done some writing and some reading, which are really important to me for my mental health. I reached out to my GP this week to say that my symptoms are coming back that I relate to low estrogen. They are I've been getting anxious. I've been getting quite sad. I'm very teary about things that are actually. So on one hand, some of the stuff I'm getting upset about is stuff that you would get upset about, but if you like, the level of padding between my cognitive ability, effectively, to replay certain circumstances or revisit certain sad events, that padding has reduced. And therefore I feel more sad and more upset than normal. I've noticed my fatigue is really chronic. I mentioned the other day, 30 minutes, a 30-minute lay down isn't enough. I'm literally zonked out for a couple of hours in the day. My appetite has changed. So rather than, so I've pretty much been almost sugar-free for a few months now. And I haven't bothered about it at all. I've been very attracted to high protein diets, lots of fruit and vegetables. Haven't been getting cravings at all, really. I would say the last 2 weeks, those cravings have steadily increased, and they are for sugar and carbohydrates. There is a level of can't be arseness that I'm experiencing. So I'm really having to motivate myself to do the simplest of things, which actually include cooking a meal. So therefore, I'm just eating shit. So it's kind of like a double whammy. Excuse me, Mabel. My Cavalier. She's hardly a raving guard dog. So it's a double whammy because there's a lethargy and disengagement that's coming in, and at the same time, my body is craving a lot more carbohydrates, refined sugars, and then you get into a vicious cycle because then that obviously contributes to the energy slumps. And so all of this is coming, and it's interesting. I reached out to my GP and said, it feels like it's an estrogen drop off. Those symptoms are coming back, and when I know my estrogen drops off, my insulin gets to play a bigger role, because insulin is our biggest hormone. It's not talked about that much in terms of menopause support, in terms of insulin resistance. So yeah, I've really noticed that. And so we looked at some blood results that were taken. We took 3 weeks ago, actually. So that was really just at the start of this decline. And my estrogen had already halved. I actually only got those results back yesterday because I'd been on holiday and I hadn't asked for them. So I had my HRT implant done back in March. They roughly last between 6 and 8 months, but because it was my first HRT implant, they put basically a mediocre level in, because once it's in, it's in. So they don't want to go too high too quickly, because having too much estrogen has a different set of problems. Context: I'm having HRT implants, which I do have to pay for privately. Roughly the implant and consultation fee is roughly about £450. And the reason I'm having the implants is because my body started rejecting topical HRT, because I'd been on it for so long, 6 years, and my liver just started rejecting it, which means I get a lot of nausea and side effects, and I don't get any benefits. But actually not having any estrogen at all is really quite debilitating in terms of my quality of life. So I thought £450 every 6 months was actually quite for me, it was something that I felt was a good investment in terms of the quality of life. And I'm very grateful to be able to find the money to do that. So my estrogen results came in that were taken 3 weeks ago, and they've already dropped from around 450 to 244. Now, actually, if you look at that in the range of normality, they say, oh, actually, it's still not too low. But obviously, I've been having my estrogen monitored against my quality of life and symptoms for the last 6 years. So I know, looking at my chart of estrogen levels in conjunction with what's called the I think it's FH and LSH indicators, which are really, really important. They're two really important indicators that effectively tell you whether your body is calling off enough insulin. Estrogen. Sorry, I'm getting confused. So if those indicators are high, if those two indicators are high, it basically means that my body is shouting. It's shouting and it's needing more insulin. So it's quite important. That's why I am a massive advocate of all women having access to endocrinologists, specialists, hormones and specialists, because looking at figures in isolation against averages, it's just a starting point. So, I have a big table over the last 6 years of my different estrogen levels, what my FSH and LH indicators have done, so I can see the patterns, and I can see where I felt really good, when my weight's been under control, when my insulin resistance been under control, I haven't been carrying too much fluid, my energy levels have been up. I know my insulin's playing around, because actually I just crave eating shit food. So yesterday my estrogen was already down to 244, which is really low for me. In actual fact, only a couple of months ago, partway through having HRT implant, so about 6 or 7 weeks after having it, my estrogen level was up in the 400s. Actually, where I've been most comfortable is probably up in the 600s. It's a very, very individual thing. And I can't even remember what the averages are, to be honest. But I think basically I operate, in terms of the level of estrogen I personally need, I operate at a higher level. I generally need quite a lot of estrogen, is the bottom line. So we've done some fresh bloods this morning. So I've had a load of fresh bloods done this morning, because over the last 2 weeks in particular, I've seen a really, really, really steep decline in my energy level, my motivation, my engagement, my can I be asked to do things, my food and my eating habits have gone to shit, and I'm just not interested in eating well. Over the last 2 weeks in particular, my anxiety is really starting to whir. I am getting quite sad and teary about lots of things. All of these point to something hormonal is not in balance for me. So yeah, and here we are in the afternoon, and although I have been productive in some ways, I still haven't hit the shower. I have to hit the shower yet. I have to hit the shower and get myself sorted. I'm sat here procrastinating. There is a list of, 15 other things really that I could be doing, but I just can't see that. So it will be interesting to see what my bloods come back with. I would put money on the fact it's probably quite a bit lower than the 244, bearing in mind the symptoms over the last couple of weeks. We will see. We'll get the bloods back on Friday, so I'll know. And once I've got that, I will then be able to reach out to my gynecologist. So it's really complex, isn't it? It's really complex. I think one of the things I'm pretty good at is working a system, quite frankly. So the HRT implants, it's a very, very tiny little surgical thing where they give you a little local anaesthetic in your tummy, make a teeny, teeny, teeny incision and pop an implant in. That is something that I pay a private gynecologist to do. And at the end of the month, I'm seeing my endocrinologist, who is a specialist in hormones, who will look at me in totality. And I will email him. My blood results and my estrogen levels and all of my indicators at the same time as I email my gynecologist to say, it looks like I've used up my estrogen pretty quickly, and therefore shall we do a new implant? And then between them, we will work out, do we need to do a slightly higher dose than we did last time? Do we need to do it more frequently? Etc, etc, etc. Now, all of that is possible for me because actually both my gynecologist and my endocrinologist are people that I access through the private system. And I access them through the private system because I am not able to access that support through the NHS. It just isn't possible for me. I don't know if it's possible for any menopausal woman, quite frankly. So in total, what does that mean? Well, from a quality of life perspective, it means that rather than, I'm sat here and I'm just thinking, God, if I was working full time in a really defined job where I had to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm sure I would manage, because women do have to manage, but it's pretty fucking brutal. So yeah, I'm blessed, and I basically don't have the time to worry about the principles and the right and wrong. I can keep putting my voice out there, and I can keep campaigning for the NHS and our general medical environment to be able to provide the right support. Every menopausal woman, I personally think, should have access to an endocrinologist, should have access to frequent blood tests that actually look at the whole system, not just their estrogen and progesterone, but their testosterone, their insulin, their cortisol, their thyroid, all kinds of things. But in the absence of that, I am absolutely using the resources that I am able to access. So I see my endocrinologist twice a year, and that consultation costs me £250. That's £500 a year. His letter and recommendations for my medical treatment is actually sent to my NHS GP, and they do prescribe pretty much what he asks them to prescribe if they're able to within the NHS guidelines, because they still have a duty of care for me. The gynecologist, this is new. I've only had HRT implants once. Like I say, it's about £400. I'm chewing it and seeing. I had a HRT implant done in March. I suspect I'll have another one done in the next few weeks. So that might be maybe 3 times a year. I don't know. But let's say it's 3 times a year at worst. That's probably another £1,200. So I'm up to £1,700 a year. I think, it's important to get the context around this, because, this is not within the gift of everybody, which is why the NHS needs to get its shit together. I, personally, I'm getting slightly off. I think in an ideal world, things such as education, such as health, should be completely equalised, and it should be something that we should all be able to access. But in terms of, we only have so long on this earth. I'm just using the resources at my disposal to try and make my life the best quality I can. And the reason I'm sharing today is just saying because I'm just sharing how I'm feeling, and therefore what options I have to be able to do something about it. But yeah, there has been a significant decline in my mood, in my engagement, in my energy levels, my general can-be-arsedness. And the really big giveaway is these cravings for carbohydrates and refined sugars, which tells me that as the estrogen drops off, the insulin becomes more prevalent. And therefore, the next thing is, if I was to leave this to continue based on my history, I would start to notice quite a lot of fluid retention from the insulin resistance that's kicking in, because the estrogen's not there to control the insulin, because there's an imbalance in the system. And then, that's when I start to get a lot of aches and pains, because a lot of the fluid actually settles in your joints. So I'm really blessed. I'm being educated by people on what's happening to my body. I guess what I'm trying to do is just share this journey so that it can help others in any way it can. But I'm not going to let it get to the point where I'm full of fluid and I'm aches and pains, and I'm in a position where I actually then need to go back on antidepressants as well, because the mood just gets so low. I can see the horizon. I'm spotting the signs here. I'm spotting the symptoms. So yeah, watch this space. I think I'll see what my blood results come back on Friday. And I will check in next week. But I think if I was a betting person, I would say next week I will probably be on the phone booking a new HRT implant, and then we will see where we go. And on that note, I'm going to go and I'm going to do one big thing. I'm going to get in the shower. Success. I'm going to now hit the shower. Lots of love. Take care.